warn you that that's almost all of my Italian, but I'm going to try and say something else later. So please yell at me. Please correct me. I'm going to be talking to you today about technology as an industry, and I'm going to be talking to you about whether or not it's always good for the people that work in it. Who here has English as your first language? Cool. No, it's okay, it's okay. It's good. Maybe you've noticed that I'm American, and we speak very, very quickly. If I say something you don't understand, or if I say something weird, go like this. The people next to you, they're looking up here. They won't see you. But it's easy to see. Already? If I say something strange, go like this, and I'll try and say it again. If you're in the back, maybe yell. Very, very loud. So to give you a bit of background about myself, my name is Jessica Rose, and I work for a company called FutureLearn. I'm a technical manager, and it's really, really exciting because we build educational experiences. We're an educational platform online, and I get to spend almost all of my day thinking about how we can make work at my company easier and better for the people I manage. Like, I love technology, and I love humans, so it's a really good deal. And it got me thinking about whether or not technology is always a great place for us to work. And the first thing I'm going to say is working in technology is often amazing. Relative to other industries, we've got a really good deal overall. It's not true for everyone, but working in technology is fantastic. The average technologist, the average software engineer makes almost $70,000. Whoa. This number is absolutely garbage and not helpful in Milan. I'm standing up here with an American accent saying, hey, the average that's not helpful. According to payscale.com, the average developer in Milan makes 20... Oh. Those of you who are laughing, like, come see me after this and we'll get online, we'll fix this. Like, leave your boss somewhere else. This data set says that it's about 28,000 euros, but for those of you watching on the video, there is some gentle laughter and some people making unhappy faces, so maybe the average isn't a good number here. And that's a lot lower than $70,000, but looking at government data and census data for Italy, that's almost a quarter higher than the average wage. It's not as great as getting a giant 70 grand pile of money, but making a quarter more than everybody else is pretty okay, right? For those of you who didn't laugh. The other thing is not just getting paid, it's having access to work. In 2016, government figures showed that there were 78,000 tech jobs that went unfilled in Italy. In an environment where there's a little more than 11% unemployment, that's fantastic. Who here is looking for work right now? Oh, if your boss is here, just raise your eyebrows. You're in a fantastic situation. It's, relative to other industries, incredibly easy to find work in technology. We're so lucky. Who here works remotely? Raise your hand. How sweet is that? You don't have to get dressed. You can wear your pajamas. If you have a Skype call, maybe like a button-up shirt and pajamas. Who here has a very formal dress code? I know it's Milan. Everyone looks fantastic. Who has to wear a suit to work, or who could just show up wearing whatever you want? You have to wear a suit? Wait, have to or want to? Within technology, even though it's not equally distributed, there's a lot more money, a lot more funding for starting your own idea or doing your own thing. Who here runs your own company? Cool. And if y'all are paying below that average, like, come see me after class. I'm going to yell at you. As my wonderful introduction said, we have an incredible amount of power as technologists. We can very literally shape the future. And if you're working on accounting software, or if you're working on a new CRM, it probably doesn't feel like you have that power. But there are 74,000 jobs available here in Italy. You've got the opportunity to get paid to do something out there that overlaps with your values. You can do something that pays you money to change the world in the way you'd like to see it. I think we're incredibly lucky working in technology. I think it's really tempting to look at all these wonderful benefits and think that we're great, we're geniuses, we deserve this, everything's perfect, except that there were a lot of people who politely laughed when I put the average salary up. And maybe there's some other things in technology that aren't always perfect. There are a lot of ways where we're not really helping ourselves and we're not really helping each other. Working in technology, it's not always great, and it's not always great for everyone. There are a lot of problems. Who here does a lot of overtime? Just look unhappy. I can't tell who works overtime and who's still a little hungover from yesterday. Crunch time, overtime, that big project, that next thing, it's not unique to technology. It's something that happens throughout a lot of industries. But technology especially, and especially sort of startups and doing your own thing and freelancers, people are left really working incredible amounts of time. Doing that can lead to burnout. I promise to try and say one more Italian word. It's help, burnout in Italian. That. Aiuto. Oh, thank God, thank you. I'm going to just get you to give the rest of the talk. Burnout is an incredibly damaging impact. It's when you've been doing too much for too long, and it damages you both physically and mentally. Burnout's been researched since in the 70s, and it's been shown to decrease your ability to remember things, to increase your chance of anxiety and depression. It leaves you unhappy, depersonalized, unable to work, and unable to really enjoy things. Burnout sucks, and it's incredibly common in technology. Another big issue is those perks, all those really great things I mentioned earlier, they're not distributed equally. Saying, hey, the average technologist makes $70,000 is a jerk move to do in Milan, where the average is 27,000 euros. And even talking about the average when people aren't always being paid equally or fairly is still really, really challenging. Within technology, we have unequal access to funding, unequal access to pay, promotions. You could have the best idea in the world, and if you're in the wrong place, if you say it in the wrong way, if you're the wrong person, you can have extra challenges to getting that idea out there. And recognizing that discrimination is one of the things that can hold people back and keep people from being able to access what they deserve is important. And looking at harassment that exists within all industries, but within technology, and looking at how we can fix that is incredibly important. You said, Jess, you started this keynote with everything in technology is fantastic, and that was okay, and now you've told me that everything is terrible, and that's not ideal. These are big problems, these are huge problems, I can't fix them, also I'm tired, I'm just going to quit. Don't quit. I have maybe a small idea that's a series of small ideas that might be very, very good in selfish ways to make your work in technology easier, to make working in technology better for people in your company, for people in your community, and that maybe these small changes could make culture overall in technology, working overall in technology, work a little bit better. Who here knows what progressive enhancement is? Cool. Those of you who don't, progressive enhancement is something that some folks who work with the web do, where it says, do you know what, we want to change this, we want to make this better, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the most impactful things. We're going to change the things that have the most impact on our users, and then we're going to change a little bit more, and a little bit more, but we're going to do that when we have the time, and we're going to do that in ways that don't break the experience for our users on the web. And this is what I want you to do, but I want you to do this for your workplaces. I want you to do this for working in technology. I want you to fix, as individuals, as companies, and as communities, I want you to fix the things that have the most impact now. And then, when you have the time, and when you have the energy, and when you can, please fix a little bit more. Ideally, these small changes should be able to immediately impact your satisfaction in your work or in your communities. And that collectively these small changes could result in some really great changes in our industry. I'm going to look at how we can do this as individuals, I'm going to look at how we can do this as companies, and I'm going to look at how we can do these as communities. So every single person here can do these things I'm listed. Anyone here can mentor, can tutor, or can champion someone else in technology. And this seems like a very, very selfless, very grand act. I'm going to help mentor somebody getting into technology. I'm going to tutor someone or teach someone a new skill. I'm going to champion their work. I'm going to talk about how wonderful they are. I'm going to push them for promotion. I'm going to push them to make more. I'm going to push them to get paid the local average. But this can also be incredibly selfish. If you're mentoring a new person in technology, or if you're teaching someone something, or if you're acting as a champion, you're building an ally. You're creating someone else who works alongside you in technology who owes you a favor, which seems a little bit weird, but you're creating people who care about your success in the same ways you've cared about their success. You're making things immediately better for them, and hopefully they're going to pay that back and be immediately better to you. Who here knows about a fantastic company to work for, or a fantastic community to get involved with? Talk about them. If you work someplace fantastic, if you work someplace that's paying above the average, tell other people about it. There's a coffee break next. Say, hey, come work at my company. We're not jerks. If you're working in a community, if you've got an open source community or a developer community, if you've got a meetup you love, and they're genuinely good, talk about them. New people entering the industry have no idea who's nice, who's bad, where's challenging. When you see things that are great, talk about them, invite other people, share that knowledge. And wherever you can, do outreach outside of technology. You've got a lot of people who are already working in the industry, and that's amazing. But some of the best technologies I've worked with used to be teachers or used to be artists. Who here had another job, another career before you worked in tech? Not so many, but y'all are still my favorites. Talking about technology and talking about your work in easy to understand, not non-technical, but minimally technical terms, invites people who aren't working in technology, who care about it, to get involved. If I come on and say, oh, I do this incredibly technical, detailed description of my job, people who don't work in tech, that's scary and weird. If I say, I help engineers build online learning experiences, that's super easy. I don't care if you've never worked in technology before. You can imagine what that job is like. And as individuals, we can also recommend that our companies and that our communities take actions. It can be a low-impact kind of thing. Say, hey, have you thought that we might be able to do this in my community? Or, hey, if you're not the boss, hey, boss, would it be nice to do this, please? Make suggestions for the activities you'd like to see your companies and communities take. I've color-coded these. All of the recommendations for individuals that are blue have no risk. You can do any of these things, and it will never hurt you, I promise. But I also have some red ones. And these are things that might be risky and might be challenging as an individual. Do them if you feel secure, but if you think that it might put you at risk, don't worry about it. So sorry. Wherever you can, when you feel safe, set and enforce your own boundaries. If you regularly work late, you're communicating to your company that it's okay for everyone to work late. If you're able to, if you've been there a while, or if you're a senior, or if you're feeling very brave, go home at 5 or 6. No later than 6, please. Set the boundaries for what you want to do in your job, and let other people see you doing that. Don't let your manager scream at you. Go home on time. Take lunch. Do things that make your life better, and set a good example for other people. This one's really dangerous. What are libel laws like in Italy? We don't know. Well, I also don't know. If you can, if you're not going to get in legal trouble, warn new people in technology about what companies are bad to work for, what communities aren't very healthy, and even what other people might hurt them and might hurt their careers. It's fantastic to be able to say, come work at this company, they're really nice. But being able to quietly say, hey, I wouldn't work there, it's not great, is incredibly powerful for people who are new. Don't raise your hands, because I don't know if your bosses are here. Who's worked for a terrible company? Just smile, we're all good. There's someone in the middle who just looks like they're about to cry. I'm so sorry. Wouldn't it have been great if somebody had warned you before you started? You say, hey, I'm interviewing at this company. And they say, don't work there. Warn people when you can. Don't let them make the same mistakes you did. And this one's really scary. As an individual, you can challenge inappropriate behavior when you see it. And this doesn't have to be a big confrontation. You don't have to get in a fight every time. But when you see somebody acting inappropriately, when you see somebody saying things that are discriminatory, when you see harassment, taking the opportunity to say, what are you doing? We don't do that. If any of you are also middle-aged ladies, so that's two of us, I really like to say, wow, I'm really disappointed that you would say that. If you can sound a bit like someone's mom, it's often very useful. Gentlemen, if you can sound like someone's mom, it's also not a bad idea. So we've talked about what you can do as an individual. Companies have so much power. Making a big culture change to make work in your company better is a process, but there are things you can do now. If your manager is here with you, it's a really good opportunity to look at them very intensely. If you're a manager, or if you run your own company, please set clear policy around working hours. If you say that working hours are 9 to 5, send people home at 5. I know it feels like you just need a little bit more out of them, but people stop doing productive work after between 6 and 8 hours each day. If you're keeping them there longer, you're not getting good work out of them, and you're damaging their lives. You're not making these people happy. If you are a manager, and you've already done this. Managers, you've done this, right? Ooh. After you've done this, which you've of course done, the next thing you have to do is set a good example. If I'm managing my team and I say, all of you go home at 5, and then I send you a bunch of emails on Saturday, I'm sending some mixed messages like, please enjoy your lives. But I'm working. Set clear examples. If I say, go home and enjoy your weekend, go home and enjoy your weekend. I'm coming out of a background where I worked in startups for a long time, and working in a company that is not a startup, it's really hard not to send a Slack message at 2 in the morning or send an email on the weekend. Learning not to do that is a process that's not just good for your employees, it feels fantastic. I'm not checking any work emails this weekend, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but it's beautiful. If you're hiring, do outreach to people who aren't currently represented in your organization. If you're sitting at a meeting and everyone looks like you and everyone sounds like you, it's probably a good opportunity to wonder why and to wonder what kind of processes you can take to change that. When you hire or when you promote, make it really explicit what you're looking for. In technology, we often hire based on this person came in for an interview and they were really confident. We should give them the job. And that's great if you're hiring someone to come into your office and be very confident. But the people who are fantastic at interviewing are not always going to be your best designers. They're not always going to be your best developers. They're not always going to be your best architects. Build processes where you ask the same questions to everyone, and you know what you're looking for. When you're looking for promotions internally, who gets an annual review? Who gets a review every year and maybe a raise? Is it usually based on competencies, a checklist, or is it based on whether or not your boss is happy that day and if they had some coffee? If you're a manager, make sure that you're testing for explicit competencies. Tell the people who work for you, we give raises to people who've learned these things, who've done these things, and then keep that promise. Everyone who's a manager, please do this on Monday, please and thank you. Audit your salaries for fairness. If someone on your team finds out that they are being paid less than someone else for the same job, there are 74,000 other jobs they can go to. They should absolutely go and take one of those 74,000 other jobs. If your boss is paying you less than someone else for the same job, if you can, please quit that job. It's very, very difficult with labor laws, but who here has worked with a jerk? Someone who makes your... I didn't even ask to raise your hand. People are like, yes, yes. I don't know if you work with a jerk. Oh, I don't know if you work with a jerk if you're just like, I'm the jerk. Where you can, look for people on your teams who are making work more difficult for other people. Look for people who are abusive. Look for people who are damaging. Look for that manager who's asking people to stay late. If it's possible, absolutely fire them. If you can't fire them, please put them in timeout. Like, away from other people as much as possible. They can make themselves unhappy, that's fine. But make sure they have as little interaction with people doing good work as possible. In technology, people hiring and people managing often say, oh, we definitely need more engineers. But, you know, more senior engineers. And there's only so many senior engineers. When you're hiring, when you're employing people, when you're managing people, make sure you're giving them the opportunity to learn. Give them training where you can. Give them space on the job to learn new things. Having a junior developer around who stays with you because you're paying them fairly, sending them home on the weekends, and letting them learn means that if you're really good to them, they're going to be a middleweight developer in a couple years. If you're fantastic to them, you've grown your own senior engineer who knows your stack and hopefully likes you. So I've told you what all of you can do individually. I've told you what you can yell at your bosses and make them do, hopefully. I want to talk really briefly about what you can do as a community. And the great thing about communities are all of these are low risk. In a community, you're doing things together. Things that are scary or things that can be high risk as an individual, if you do them together, you're fine. Do outreach to folks who are not currently represented in your community. The same way where if you look around a meeting and everyone looks like you and everyone sounds like you, if you're at a meetup and you have the same problem, or if you're at a conference, it's time to ask yourself, why? Who else is out there? What are they looking for? How can we build our communities to better suit their needs? Share opportunities transparently. Who here has gotten a job because their friend gave them information? Yeah. Who here has gotten a weird opportunity because someone told them about it? Yeah. When you hear about things, tell everyone. Social media has problems, but social media is totally a thing. It's 2017. If you hear about a job going in a great company, or if you hear about a training opportunity, share it throughout your communities. Make sure anybody who wants to can get involved with that. Set and enforce standards of behavior. I want everyone in communities to act like sort of really friendly RoboCops for making their communities better. Talk about what you expect from each other. If I come to your meetup, or if I come to your conference, or if I come to the pub with you to talk about tech, what can I expect? What kind of behavior is appropriate, and what kind of behavior are you going to shut down as a community? The same way I want individual people talking about folks who are great, and things that are great, and companies that are great, I want communities to be spotlighting them as well. If you've got individuals in your community who are doing great work, or if you've got companies in your community that work really well, tell everyone in your community. Talk about it. Make those good opportunities as transparent as possible. And do outreach beyond technology. If you're Django girls, if you're the local Milan Python community, if you're, everybody yell at me in 3, 2, 1. What's the communities you belong to? What's the coolest tech community in Milan? 3, 2, 1. I love how I've got the most shy and polite audience I've ever had in Italy. So your favorite tech community in 3, 2, 1. So for those of you watching the video, mumble, 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 mumble was what we know works was. Tell everybody about what you think is fantastic in your communities. This idea of progressive enhancement for working in tech and progressive enhancement for humans in tech is only one way to do things. Some people look at the problems in technology and they drop everything and they dedicate their lives to it, which is pretty intense. That way isn't any better or any worse than this. The folks who are doing the hard work and putting in the energy and trying to make working in tech better for you, support them anytime you can. If you've been a little bit sleepy through this and just want to recap, to walk you through what's been going on, working in technology can be great. Relative to other industries, overall, not everyone, we're incredibly lucky. But it's not great for everyone, and it's not great for all of us all the time. Making small, self-contained changes can make things a little bit better for us immediately. And if we keep doing that, there's a really good chance that all of these small, self-contained changes can make tech overall even better and hopefully get everybody up to that median salary. So when you are exhausted and when you are burned out and everything seems terrible, even when it feels like you've got very little left to give, making these tiny changes can make it a little bit better for you. And if you encourage the folks around you to make the similar tiny, tiny changes, hopefully they can work with you to make it better for everyone. Thank you so much.